Welcome to the Agent of Wealth podcast with Marc Bautis from Bautis Financial. In this podcast, Marc helps guide you towards financial freedom, ensure you never run out of money, and create a balance in life that prioritizes what is most important to you. Join us for this journey as Marc draws from years of expertise and guest experts to solve the multiple wealth building challenges involved in your financial life.
Welcome back to the Agent of Wealth. This is your host, Marc Bautis. Today I'm joined by a special guest, Michele DeFilippo, owner of 1106 Design and an accidental author advocate. 1106 Design makes it easy for authors to release a top quality book, keep control of it, and earn more money every time they sell a copy. The company provides end-to-end book design, production, and publishing services for independent authors. And most importantly, 1106 Design helps authors set up book distribution accounts in their name. This way, every penny of net revenue after retailer discounts and printing costs are deducted are deposited directly into the author's bank account. With more than 50 years of experience in book publishing, Michele is on a mission to help authors ask the right questions to make informed decisions about publishing their books. She also wrote a guide, Publish Like the Pros, a brief guide to quality self-publishing. Michele, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Marc. I appreciate you having me on.
So I'm excited to speak to you today about full-service assisted self-publishing. Quite a few of our regular listeners are business owners. You know, they may be navigating that idea of creating a book or publishing a book. You know, I think a lot of people kind of get overwhelmed by it and then just never get started. Before we get into some of the details, can you just give us a little bit about book publishing, how it's changed, how you got into it, and why authors are looking to self-publish more and more?
Sure, I'll be happy to talk about that. Self-publishing is growing exponentially and has been since it started around 2001 or so when Amazon came on the scene. Amazon changed the publishing world forever. They made it possible for anyone who wanted to distribute a book to the published to do so on their own without an intermediate publishing company. Before Amazon, you had to work through a publisher in order to get your book out there in bookstores or anywhere else. And so Amazon created an earthquake in publishing by changing all that. Now, when independent publishing, or as it's now called self-publishing, first started, the idea was that you didn't need a publisher, that the author was the publisher, and the author would bear the responsibility of producing a market quality book, hire the experts to produce the book, and then market that book and make sure that it was a success. It wasn't long before things started to get more complicated than that. And now I call myself an accidental author advocate because now the field has become so complicated and so misunderstood that a lot of authors are leaving money on the table without realizing it. And they're not getting the revenue they should get from their books because they are working with an unnecessary intermediate publishing company.
What do they come in and say, all right, this is why you need to work with an intermediate company? Do they take on the risk of the book selling or not selling? Do they give money to the author? What actually do they do?
No, and that's the difference between these companies that exist now and traditional publishing. In traditional publishing, the publishing company did take the risk. They paid the author to buy the rights to produce the manuscript. They paid the experts, the editorial and design experts, to produce the book. And then they took the risk. When a book was sold, the publisher would then get most of the revenue and pay the author a small royalty. Now, that was a very fair business model, right? The publisher made the investment. The publisher deserved a return on that investment. So when indie publishing came along, the author was supposed to be the publisher and get all of the return on the investment that they made. Now it's complicated. Now we have intermediate publishing companies, and what they do is they charge the author to produce the book, so they have no risk at all, and they also take money out of the author's pocket on the back end when a book is sold. So they have no investment whatsoever in the book, and yet they're sharing the author's profit. It's completely upside down compared to what it should be, and it's not at all advantageous for the author.
Okay. Let's actually kind of take an example of like someone who has an idea that says, oh yeah, I would like to publish a book. What's the first step? Do they have to just write a rough draft first, or does someone help them write their book?
That can go either way. There are ghostwriters who can help someone write the book from scratch if they don't have the time or the inclination to do it themselves. That's pretty expensive, as you might imagine, because it takes most ghostwriters maybe can write 2 or 3 books a year. So the fee for ghostwriting is pretty high, maybe in the $30,000, $50,000, $70,000 range. So that's a tough bar to overcome in terms of return on investment if the book is eventually published. But most people that come have written their manuscript and then they go to the internet and start looking for help to get it published. And that's where the trouble starts, because companies like mine are more difficult to find than regular publishers. And the publishers who will charge the author to produce the book and then take revenue on the back end. My company and others like my company could be better known as author services companies. We charge the author to produce the book and give them the help and support they need all along the way, but we don't take their money on the back end.
Mm-hmm. Is editing considered part of publishing it, or does it already have to be edited and ready to go by the time it gets to someone like you?
Oh, no, we would take the manuscript. When the author feels they've done the best they can with it, then they would send the manuscript to us. And we can handle editing and cover design, interior design, all the other services needed, and also help the author distribute the book in their own name so that nobody but them gets the sales reports and the revenue deposits to their bank account.
Mm-hmm. You mentioned the self-publishing got started in around 2001 with Amazon, but are they still the main driver of where this book is going to get distributed, or can it get distributed through other channels as well?
Yes, most of your sales are going to come through Amazon because the world just sees Amazon as the place to buy books now. Print on demand is a publishing model where the book is not printed until it's sold. So Amazon owns a print on demand subsidiary called KDP.com. And then there's another print on demand company called Ingram Spark, which is owned by Ingram, the largest book wholesaler in the world. They've been in business 100 years. So by using both of those platforms, the author can get the widest distribution at the lowest cost, because distribution comes with a fee. You can't avoid that. Amazon charges a 40% wholesale discount off the cover price. Ingram Spark charges 55%, and they handle a different part of the market. They distribute your book to physical bookstores, libraries, other distributors, and so forth. So both of those platforms are necessary. Even though 80% of your sales will come from Amazon, the other 20% should not be ignored, in my opinion.
So if you go that Ingram model, is your book going to show up in Barnes & Noble, or are there some kind of like qualifications that have to be met?
No, your book will be distributed to we use Amazon to distribute to Amazon only worldwide. And then Ingram will distribute to Barnes & Noble, all kinds of book retailers, physical bookstores, Walmart, Target, all of that. Any what we would call an old-fashioned bookstore always buys their books from Ingram. They do not buy from Amazon. So you don't want to cut out all of those sales if you can help it.
Yeah. All right, let's talk a little about some of the specifics that you mentioned about what goes into this. Because I'm sure like a lot of, at least people I'm thinking about that would want to do this. They're not in the book field. They're into whatever field they're in. And this is kind of something, a new space that they have no idea of. And now they're probably hearing of, okay, there's editing, there's cover design, interior design, the distribution. Let's start with cover design.
Well, there's a lot of misinformation in the field now. If you go online, you're going to run into people who tell you to do your own cover design or, buy cover design from an online platform where the fees are really very low, usually because the providers are overseas. Cover design is crucial. If you think about how you shop on Amazon, the cover is what makes people stop and learn more about the book. The cover design and the text on the cover tell people what the book is about in about 3 seconds. And we want to make them stop and learn more. And after they learn more, then it becomes a subjective decision on their part. We can't know what every potential buyer is thinking or what information they need, but our job is to make them stop. There's a lot more to cover design than people think. There's a lot of training and things that designers think about: color, composition, balance, all sorts of things, contrast. And it really takes a trained eye, a trained cover designer to get the best look for your book.
Yeah, so definitely a lot goes into it, which would seem like so simple. It's just the cover. But like you said, someone's making up a decision in about 3 seconds, and you better hope that cover is what's going to catch their attention.
Well, the thing is, even if let's say your book is published and you start telling people it's available on Amazon, when they go there, Amazon is not just going to show your book. They're going to show the best-selling titles that are similar. So if your book looks self-published, it's not going to stand out for the right reasons.
Right. I'm kind of going back to that potential author thinking about a book. How many pages should a book be before they even consider creating one? I know obviously it's kind of a catch-22 because you may not know exactly how much of a book you have in you, but is there a minimum?
That depends. I mean, books generally are getting smaller over the years. I mean, we don't find 600 or 700 page novels anymore. Nobody has the patience for that. The internet has trained us to want information in smaller chunks, right? So I would say an ideal length for a book would be between 200 and 300 pages, which is 50 to 70 to 80,000 words, something in that neighborhood. But for a business owner, you don't have to write a full-length book. You can also use a smaller booklet like the one I produced, which can tell your story briefly and be given away for free because it's inexpensive to distribute, and you can help your business that way.
Mm-hmm. And what about topic? Should they do some research on a topic to know if it's saturated, if they're covering it at a different angle, or should they just, if they have an idea and think this would be a good book, just go with it?
Well, that's a problem that happens a lot, and that authors will get an idea about writing a book, and it's an idea that appeals to them, but they should take a step back and research the market a little bit because there are thousands and thousands of books on every topic. One way to go about it is to find a burning problem that people have, and if you can solve that burning problem in a unique way, then you're giving yourself a better chance of making sales because people are looking for solutions, particularly business owners, right? I know if I bought a book that promises to give me a solution to some problem that I have, I don't care what it costs, I'll buy it. So nobody needs another self-help book. It's difficult to sell a novel, but if you can write a good nonfiction book on a problem that a lot of people have, that's a good place to start.
We almost kind of do that ourselves with that little research. Is if if we're talking to someone about their finances and we see, someone has a question about it, okay, they have a question. But if we start getting that question from 3 people, 5 people, we're like, okay, maybe we should write a blog post or some piece of content on it. And then if it's 10 people or 20 people, we'll maybe do a podcast on it or we'll do a webinar on it. But it's kind of like our own built-in research to know what people are thinking about. And the likelihood is if someone or multiple people are asking the same question, there's a lot more people out there that are asking it.
And that's exactly correct. You actually answered the question that hasn't been asked yet. If a business owner is saying, I don't know how to write a book, what should I write about? Well, just take a minute, take a breath. Your customers have already told you what you need to write about.
Yeah. So we kind of can look at it as everyone's got a book.
The book is already in your head. What you just got to do is sit down and get it on paper. Tell people what you know the most about.
How do you see AI changing the book writing space? There's all this hype about it, and then there's probably what's going to be reality. But in your specific field, how do you see AI impacting it?
From what I've seen so far, like you said, everybody is stampeding to it, but I think it could have some terrible impacts on publishing, right? Because what is going to happen to the world if people no longer write books, if machines write books? And we've all seen AI responses in various ways. They're not accurate a lot of the time. So what happens when inaccurate information gets disseminated? It's possibly not a good thing. I hope it all settles down. I think it could become a tool which, if used correctly, can save people a lot of time and effort, but it can also be misused. We're already hearing posts and comments about people helping others write books with AI and publish 20, 30, 40 titles in a month. I don't know. People have to have confidence in what they're buying, whatever the product is.
Yeah, I could see that. And I, on the podcast recently, I interviewed an author who said he had written a lot of books, and a lot of them, or all of them, except the last one, were all written by himself. The last one, he utilized AI to help him write. And like you said, you can have the people now, he'd pump out one book a year, one book, over a longer period of time. If people start pumping out 30, 40 books, I think the people that read will actually kind of stop reading because you maybe not can trust the source as much, or it just becomes this I can go to AI and I can get the information I need. I don't even need to read a book that's written by AI. So why even read the book in the first place? And it could really change the industry.
Well, I hope we never devalue human creativity and human interaction in any area.
Yeah.
Because what happens when the machines take over?
Yeah, I could see it far-reaching than just books.
Yeah.
Now, as far as like that author going through the process, you kind of coach them through everything. Their book is done. They have is it called publishing on demand? That's where there's no inventory?
It's called print on demand. And the two platforms, kdp.com and ingramspark.com, are the platforms that will distribute your book to the retailers and take care of all the financial transactions behind the scenes and make a simple deposit to your bank account once a month.
What are some of the ways that after someone publishes their book, they market it?
Oh, there's lots of ways to do that. You can hire a marketing company, of course, which can get pretty expensive, right? Most indie publishers can afford to push the book for 6 months or so with a professional marketing company. So what we offer as an alternative to that is author marketing training, which teaches you how to market the book yourself. So you can learn what to do and how to do it. And you can also access the research that a marketing company would do and then use that over and over and over again if you write more than one book.
Are people using social media? Are they trying to be guests on podcasts? What are the different things that they would try and do?
All of the above. And I think marketing any business now is a challenge, right? Because the audience is everywhere. So you have to find them where they may be gathering. But that's where the research comes in. A book marketing expert can find out where your audience gathers so that you're not just broadcasting to everyone. You're trying to narrow that down a little bit and posting on blogs or appearing on podcasts where your target audience is most likely to be.
I'm finding myself listening to books. Is there an easy way to get your manuscript converted to an audiobook as well?
Well, there is an easy way, and that goes back to AI. We now have AI narration available, but I think it sounds artificial. I don't think it's anywhere near as good as a human narrator. Maybe that will change over time, but a talented voice actor can bring your book alive in a way that a machine never will be able to do, I don't think. So AI narration bothers me. But the funny thing is, ebooks, there's been at least three generations of ebooks, and every time a new generation comes out, people predict the demise of print books. That hasn't happened. People still love all three formats.
Yeah, well, people predict the demise of all different kinds of things that don't play out, so I can definitely see,
That's where the book design comes in, because if you read a print book that's been carefully designed, it's not just absorbing content. It's an experience. It's a sensory experience to see those design pages and to read beautifully typeset text. And I think that's why print books continue to be popular.
Yeah. There are a lot of do-it-yourself or just people in general are do-it-yourselfers. Why, should someone say, okay, I'm going to, hire 1106 Design to help me through this process?
Well, yes, the do-it-yourself narrative has taken hold to a certain degree, but it's like anything else. Every subject is more complicated than you think it is if you're on the outside. When you're on the inside, you know far more, that there's far more to it than the outside observer will ever know. And the same is true of book design. A lot of effort and time goes into making adjustments to the text so that the text is not distracting. There's dozens and dozens of typesetting rules that we follow, which take a lot of time. I'll give you one example, and you will often see this even in traditionally published books nowadays, which drives me crazy. The first line of a paragraph at the bottom of a page. That makes you stop for a fraction of a second while your brain carries you to the top of the next page. It's something that should be avoided. Same thing with the last line of a paragraph, should never appear on the top of a page. So things like that are what crazy typesetters like me do to make the reading experience smooth and not distracting so that the reader can focus on your message and not on bad text.
Yeah, makes sense. All right, Michele, that's all the questions I have for you today. I want to thank you for joining me on an episode of The Agent of Wealth. I appreciate not only your time, but also sharing your expertise. Before we go, how best can interested authors get in touch with you and the team at 1106 Design?
Well, thank you, Mark. I appreciate being here. Anyone can reach me at 1106design.com. We have a contact form there where you can tell us a little bit about yourself and your book, and we will reach out and call you when we get that form. I promise we will not send you 5 emails a day after you make contact. By putting in your email address, you can also download a free copy of my book, Published Like the Pros. We don't believe in high-pressure sales tactics. We want to make sure that we're a good fit for you and vice versa. So we'll just have a respectful conversation, and we'll see if that works.
Great. We'll include that link in the resources section of the show notes. Thanks again, Michele, and thank you to everyone who tuned in to today's episode. Don't forget to follow the Agent of Wealth on the platform you listen from and leave us a review of the show. We're currently accepting new clients, and if you'd like to schedule a one-on-one consultation with our advisors, please do so at bautisfinancial.com/call.
Thank you for listening to the Agent of Wealth podcast. Click the subscribe button below to be notified when new episodes become available. The information covered represents the views and opinions of the guests and does not necessarily represent the views or opinions of Bautis Financial. The content has been made available for informational and educational purposes only and is not intended to be a substitute for professional financial planning and investment advice. Always seek the advice of your financial advisor or other qualified financial service provider with any questions you may have regarding your investments and financial planning.